Well, this movie was a blast. Hey guys and girls, happy October once again. I am bored now. Today I'm going to talk about the movie Dolls from 1987. It's a Charles Band production and it was a first time watch, and I'm sorry I took so long to get to it because it just ticks so many of those fun 80s horror boxes, very campy, very over the top, some entertaining dialogue, some fun, memorable characters. It was really a quirky take on the knee high mischief subgenre, which is quite a fun subgenre. But yeah, it was a really fun movie. I think there's a real sense of adventure to this to go along with just the wacky, pulpy, some of the violence as well from these like dolls that just come alive. So the setup is we get this child Judy, and her being called Judy. Keep a track of that because that will come into play. But she's now with her father, who's left her mother behind. He's with this other woman who's played by Julie from Hellraiser, so that can only mean trouble. And the kid, they're just disrespecting the kid left, right, and centre, dragging her about, making gags about, I really want to kill that kid. And Julie from Hellraiser is, well, get in line. And the dad is taunting her, well, your mother's not around now, is she? And all the rest of it. So there's lots of like over the top villainy coming from them. They leave her in the woods at some point, but then come back for her. Judy leaves her doll in the woods, and they end up spending the night at this hotel run by this sort of offbeat older couple, and the man just happens to make dolls for a living, but he's kind of saying how he's sad that people don't invest in like old-fashioned dolls anymore, and the business has fallen on hard times because of that. So that means Judy is just the right person to come along with her father and her stepmother. And wouldn't you know, he has a doll called Mr. Punch that he introduces Judy to. Then we get introduced to a few other characters who are also staying at the same hotel. So randomly, this guy Ralph, and that guy, I've seen in things as well. I think, was he in Lost? I don't know, something like that. But I've definitely seen him in other stuff. He's a very recognisable face. He's sort of got a bit of a Sean Astin type vibe to him, but it's not Sean Astin, I know. And Stephen Lee is the name of the actor. I just can't think what I've seen him in. So he shows up, and randomly he's got a couple of like punky girls with him with insanely over the top 80s hairdos and outfits. One of them looks like a wannabe Madonna, and they've got these really sort of crazy like Cockney accents. So it's a lot of fun hearing them pronounce like certain things and their sort of bitchy talk, but they just hitched a ride with him. So the idea is that they're taking Ralph for a ride. They're just into him or tagging along for his money. So they're talking about stealing his wallet, stealing his car keys, and then they get involved in the dolls plot as well. So dolls start coming alive, which they're the toys which this guy has made, and they start going after the guests in this hotel, and that is the setup for Dolls. And like I said, it's a real blast. I think it does have this playful feel to it where it's almost quite feel good, even though there's a lot of like horror antics, and it does get quite pulpy and violent at times, like the dolls' faces when they turn all like grimy and they turn to mush. That all looks very satisfying, and you've got a scene where the Madonna lookalike is dragged along the floor, and it's in front of Judy, and she's got like Mr. Punch in her hand at the time, and she's trying to save, I forget her name, Isabel, the Madonna lookalike, but she can't. Like, it seems that the doll's controlling her, and she just gets dragged away. And that's like the first big death. You've got this pool of blood somehow she's cut open. You can hear all the dolls like giggling and laughing. So that's the whole thing, and it seems like this old couple is behind what's going on, and Ralph and Judy end up kind of teaming together to try and save the day, or almost. So there's a lot of fun antics, a lot of fun comedy, as I said, some great little dialogue. It's also quite fun with the old couple because you're set up to maybe think that they're like the villains in the movie. And I think that the movie plays with that, where by the end it turns out they do know what's going on, and but it's almost like a Tales from the Crypt type thing, where it's almost like because the dad of Judy is an asshole, then by the end of the film he gets turned into a doll, as does his girlfriend, and they sort of deserve it. So it's almost like a morality thing where it's like they're cleaning up the mess. Because there's this whole thing about Ralph where he's saying how he's a very playful, like kid-like character. He's saying how I'm a kid at heart. I still love the idea of dolls. There's this funny scene where he's got a doll in his room at the side of bed, and he's like talking to him. So he's sort of seen as this good, like, natured guy, which I guess is why he got taken in by the girls. And some of their antics are funny as well, like the exchange with the old woman. There's this whole thing where they're almost describing her as an antique, and she's like, "Well, you could say I'm an antique, in a way," and they're just saying things like, "Yeah, but are they valuable?" And just them saying that in the Cockney accent, and then she just ends with the line, she leaves them, "Don't let the bed bugs bite." So there's lots of fun dialogue back and forth, but as I said, it's almost this like fun, quirky thing with the old couple where they are kind of doing villainous things, but they're doing it to the people who are like assholes in the movie, and they're so cartoony assholes you don't really mind. So there's some fun stuff with the horror, some fun dialogue. You get a whole thing with like the different toys coming alive and all the different antics going on. Like you've got the toy soldiers at one point confronting the other punk girl. You've got her saying like batter her up or something, like threatening to knock them all down, but they eventually swarm on her, and you've got all the noises from the various dolls. It's really fun stuff. Like Julia out of Hellraiser, her death is a lot of fun and quite violent, and I really like the payoff scene later on when I don't know how the dolls managed to do this, to be honest. Maybe the old guy did it, but she's back in her bed. So the husband just thinks, yeah, she's there, she's sleeping. And he's got this line about, pucker up, baby, I want a kiss. And then turns her around and she's bleeding, all dead. And he immediately, because he's believed for ages that Ralph is responsible, which I'll talk about in a minute. So he starts screaming at the top of his lungs, "Ralph, this is your doing. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you." And it's just so funny. It's like this extreme reaction that he's immediately on the warpath, like the moment after he's found his girlfriend dead in bed. But like they really ham it up in this movie. Like the actors do a good job, and as I said, there's some fun characters. The kid is very adorable and likable, has a little bit of a spooky 80s kid vibe to her, but also I think she's quite cute and has a little bit of a charm to her as well. And the team up with her and Ralph is very endearing, how he becomes like a father figure. So it's a movie with a little bit of a heart, and it's a movie which jumps around a little bit, where it does play a bit to like the sort of audience who would enjoy Gremlins, or maybe the sort of audience that might enjoy the Goonies, but it's throwing horror stuff in there and very wacky B-movie stuff in there. Like, it's definitely a bit more wacky than Gremlins, even though Gremlins does have some wacky fun stuff as well. It's a little bit more on the cheesy B-movie side than Gremlins, I would say, but you can definitely see some of the spirit of Gremlins and some of the spirit of, like, as I said, the Goonies, a little bit, but obviously, again, a more adult Goonies. So I do kind of like that it has that sort of family vibe, but mixing it with, like, the fun horror stuff. And some of the misunderstandings with Ralph are really funny, and just the way he understands, like, or sorry, reacts to them and tries to talk his way out of them. Because when things start going down and the Madonna lookalike has been killed off and Judy's saying she got dragged away, there's blood everywhere, they're both saying that, and the friend of the Madonna lookalike is like, hey, you did it, didn't you? I see what you're doing, you picked us up. And he's like, no, I was asleep in bed at the time. And Judy's like, yeah, he was, that's right. And that's not the thing to say, Judy, when the parents are, like, right there, or, like, the stepmom and your dad. Because then they start accusing him of being a pervert, and he has to try and talk his way out of it. And that's why for a long time they believe that it's Ralph who's behind this stuff. So that scene is just really funny, like the innocence of Ralph trying to talk his way out of it. He's such a lovable character. Because I also like how he's got blood on him, and I think he's been bitten or something, or he thinks he's been bitten, but they just think it's like the blood from the girl. So it's like, yeah, what's that blood on you? So it looks even more suspicious, and for a long time they do suspect him before things start happening with all the toys, and finally these people get killed off or sort of put in danger. And as I said, like, the wife who is basically killed, but I think also turned into a doll, and then the father, he's turned into a doll as well, and Ralph becomes the father figure for the girl Judy, which makes sense. I also quite enjoy how at the end of the movie it feels like it's playing with how squeaky clean some of these movies can be, like some family movies, because it's almost like everything is like patched up and like tied up very neatly, but in quite a funny sort of way, because like the old guy is just giving Ralph this whole story about how the dad left in the middle of the night, which he knows isn't true, but he left in the middle of the night, decided that the girl Judy should be with her mother, which is what Judy has wanted all the way through the movie. And there's this whole thing about, well, he left the money for your train fare home, Ralph. And Ralph's like, really? He didn't seem that nice. So it's almost got this playful thing where the old couple are explaining away all this, and they've basically taken care of the true villains of the movie and turned them into dolls. So it's this twisted thing of now they're going to be like their property, they're dolls. And they're just tying all these things up so that Ralph and Judy can go and live happily ever after, almost. Because Judy is worried, and he's like, no, he wants, the dad wants you to go and live in a loving home with your mother. So it's all this stuff going on, and you even get this sort of feel-good thing a little bit with Judy and Ralph when they leave in the car, because Judy's like, have you ever been married? Ralph is like, no. Did you want to be? Or have you ever wanted to be? He's sort of like, yeah, well, yeah, maybe. And he's like, you're going to like my mother. She's really pretty. So they're doing this whole thing where she's going to set up the mother with Ralph, and he's going to find happiness. And there's this random scene over the credits, which is like, I think, another scene from before with the couples fighting. Or maybe it's a different couple. I didn't quite get what that was. But yeah, it's a blast. It's a very entertaining movie. Ticks a lot of those 80s horror boxes for me. So 7.5. I really love Dolls. I'll definitely be rewatching this one. It probably runs a little out of steam as you start throwing more and more antics with the dolls at things, but it is such a fun movie. It moves at a good pace. It's a very short movie. The characters are likable and goofy. So a good time all around. That is Dolls. So let me know what you guys think if you've seen it in the comments. Like and subscribe as always. Let me know what you've been watching in this October, I should say, and I'll be back with more soon. Goodbye.